My AC just kicked on, so it might be that.
We don't need no
That's
stinking
okay.
AC.
It's like a little like.
I don't hear it, but I also have this shitty headphone.
I can turn the
that's
AC
fine.
off.
It is what
Hold
it
on.
is. What
One
can we do?
Nah, no, you don't need to melt on our
Take
behalf.
off your sweatshirt. Turn off the AC.
She wrapped in a blanket too.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of AP Taylor Swift, the podcast for Swifties who like to dive a layer deeper into the music. So lean in close, turn up your volume, because class is in session. We're your hosts. I'm Monty.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Jody.
And we are your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift.
Welcome back to another episode of AP Taylor Swift. But today we have a very special episode because we are celebrating 1 year of the podcast. I can't really believe it. We've had like about 60 episodes.
1 year. Imagine
We're
that.
1 year old. We're sophomores now, I guess. We've exited our freshman year. Although I guess if we go beyond 4 years, then
Yeah,
like
grad
super
school,
anyway,
PhD.
we're
Yeah.
1 year old.
We'll
It
get our
goes on
doctorate.
and on and on. Yeah.
We could not have gotten to 1 year without you, our listeners, dear readers, followers.
Or Taylor Swift having
Or-
such a massive
Yeah.
discography. We've barely
maybe.
even scratched the surface of all the content we can make about this.
Yeah, seriously.
For all of you, so we have a Notion doc that lists out every single Taylor Swift song, and we tag it pretty religiously with what episodes, and that way we can track which songs we've covered, what we haven't, and we've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I still go through it, and every now and then I'm like, wait, have we really not discussed this song? This happened to me today. I was like, how have we not discussed Delicate?
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a problem. Are there other songs, Jen, other songs that you were like, how have we gotten this far that we haven't done this song?
I'm going to be honest, in that moment, I was like, yeah, that's true. And then I was processing the fact that she dropped 31 new songs in the middle of the year of us recording
That's
this.
true.
And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, my
It's
goodness.
Going to
went
be a Sisyphean task, because every time we roll this boulder up a hill and make a dent in this discography, she is going to release something else. So if you like this podcast, congratulations. We probably have a never-ending list of songs to deep dive.
I think the thing that gets me is how little we've done of Red, particularly Red Taylor's version,
Ooh.
because she added like a whole other album of vault tracks to that, and we've only done like 4 from Red.
The vault tracks in general, I feel like we've barely made a dent on any of all the new music. Cool.
Not me trying to pull up the list of songs, because I'm like, what? We've barely dove into Red of all all albums.
We just have done All Too Well. We did Red, the song Red, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
We did We Are Never Getting Back Together and Stay, 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 and that's it.
We're terrible. Why would anybody listen to our podcast?
Stop it.
I should, there's probably a way to do this in Notion that I haven't figured out yet, but I should just like calculate the percentage of songs that we actually have done, because I bet you it's
Very
like
small.
5%,
Yeah.
10%.
Well, our summer school, we've definitely put a little bit of a dent into Tortured Poet, so that was good. And 1989, we've done a good amount of Reputation, Lover, and Evermore. But there are songs.
I think we were trying to not go too hard on folklore, and I think we overcorrected on that.
So
one
we're gonna have to fix that.
Can we take a second to just talk about how much fun this has been for us? I feel like it's been a lot of fun, hopefully, for our listeners, but like we always kind of joke that whether anybody listens or not, we're having the time of our lives.
We'll keep making this even if we're down to it's just my dad who keeps listening. Hi, Dad. I know you listen. It's fine. We'll make it for you, Dad.
My mom and my therapist, you can add to that list as well. So there's 6 listeners if you include us.
And then I also want to give just a shout out to both of you, because this would be a great time to reveal that I actually birthed a child in the time that we
never said
recorded.
that on the pod, have you?
I've never said it because I don't know, the time kind of passed, but we literally started on this project, and then I told them I was pregnant, and then I had a whole human, and we're now a year into this thing, and these two, I mean, when I talk about how to support somebody who's going through a major life change, these two have
Aw.
literally been my rock. So you two deserve an extra round of applause because I just couldn't have done it without you guys.
I think one of my favorite off recording moments with the three of us was not that long after your baby was born. You were like, I think you two may be like top 5 voices that my child is familiar with because she just heard you for like 9 months on Zoom like all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
It's us and Taylor.
It's totally true. She has AP Taylor Swift swag. She was kind of born wearing it.
She was also born wearing a
yeah.
Cornelia Street onesie. She also we have pod merchandise. If you all would like pod merchandise, please let us know because we already have the ability to create
We make it for ourselves.
Cornelia Street onesies. But yes,
Maybe in our Substack we can share some of the memorabilia that we've amassed over the year.
we've also, I think merchandise would be really cool to do, but we want to make sure if people want it. I would love to do a book club. Like if I could
Oh my
manifest
gosh.
that, I think it'd be really fun. We've done a couple book episodes, Pride and Prejudice, Great Gatsby. Like it'd be really fun to do more and read those books alongside listeners. I also need the accountability of a book club. So that would help. Who wants to join me?
We've really made a dent on our book lists online.
On Bookshop.
Every time I tag our bookshop book lists with the books that we mentioned, it's like a library in itself.
It makes us look very well read, which Jen very much. Jen always has the best book recommendations.
I am well read, not always by choice, but by the result of getting 2 degrees in English, which I suppose that was my choice to do those.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I'm still doing school, so like things that haven't changed.
Lifelong learner.
Still going on.
Yeah, Monty's a mild psychopath. She had a baby, has a full-time job, and is getting her master's program, and was like, yeah, I can do a podcast too.
It's okay. That's why she's also half of a mess. But this has been the fun part of my days for sure.
Well, in honor of our 1-year anniversary and of the community we are building and the people who are following us, which would be you all, we wanted to sort of take a step back, and instead of doing our normal process, we wanted to just ask what you guys wanted to hear about. So some of you may have seen, we posted on social media, basically a call for proposals, if you will, of, hey, what are some lyrics that you think should be discussed because you're kind of confused about them, or you just want to hear more, or what are lyrics you think are underrated and just objectively should be discussed more. Taylor has some really popular songs. She has some songs that people think are underrated, and we wanted to get into that in a bit of a larger amount and do it based on the requests we've been hearing. So first of all, you all heard and you responded, and we do not have enough time to get to all of the requests, which was wonderful, but keep following along. We're gonna, on social media, the ones that we don't get to in this conversation, we'll be posting some of our thoughts on social media, and there's a couple of them that we're not going to do because we already know we have an episode coming out this fall around that. So if you were put something in and it didn't come out, don't worry, we have not forgotten you. So,
and if you don't follow us on social media,
yes,
you can please do. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all at AP Taylor Swift. Does Substack count as social media? You can also subscribe to us there.
I feel like it's definitely a channel that you should subscribe to.
Well, with that, I'm going to talk about the first request, which isn't quite a lyric. It's a whole freaking bridge. So, you know, we love a bridge.
We got a lot of bridge requests.
Got a lot of bridges.
Yeah, we did.
So talk about one of those folklore songs we haven't done that we should have. My Tears Ricochet. So we've got a special request for the bridge. This is track 5 off of Folklore. Came out in 2020, written by Taylor Swift and Taylor Swift alone. This is hard to do just a line or just a bridge because we are so used to going into the entire song, but I will try my hardest, or we will try because we're all going to do it together, but I will read the bridge to you. It says, and I can go, and I also just can't not do it without the like dress cape thingy that she does in the Eras tour, so imagine that. And I can go anywhere I want, just not home. And you can aim for my heart, go for blood, but you would still miss me in your bones. And I still talk to you when I'm screaming at the sky. And when you can't sleep at night, you hear my stolen lullabies. So I think y'all want to know what that means.
I am just and not having thought about this at all. In the moment as you're reading that, and the whole anywhere I want, just not home, makes me think of Florida a little
Oh,
bit, because we've
God.
just spent so much time with TTPD. This is real. This is real. I'm not
You're not
just
being-
shoehorning Florida
Yeah.
into this. But Florida has the thing of the home. Your home is just a place, whatever. That it's not this idea of you can't go home. You have to go escape somewhere. This is a very sad version. Florida is almost a more like manic, murdery version.
Your home's really only a town you're just a guest in, is the line.
Yes.
So to me, this bridge, and especially those first lines, and I can go anywhere I want, just not home, is evoking this feeling of you've lost the person or the place that used to feel like home to you. Something that meant so much. So, and the line, I can go anywhere I want, just not home. Maybe you have success everywhere but there. So whether that is romantic or maybe professional, but this idea that everything else is going well, but I can't have the one thing where I felt the most comfortable and the most at ease.
I think in recent episodes where we've gotten a little bit more poetic and started talking more about literary devices, one thing that is really clear to me with this particular line is it's a very clear juxtaposition. You have the magnitude of something as large as everywhere. There's no limit. There's no trying to fit that in a small thing. Everywhere is so massive. And then to contrast with just not home, which is a place so personal and so close to you and so unique for every individual person. You have phrases like, there's no place like home. You have the magnitude of somewhere as grand as everywhere, which is literally all around you. And then you have something as personal. So I just think that's one of the reasons that this particular line is so powerful, because of that juxtaposition.
And home is truly, or it should be, the place where you can rest. And this line always made me feel exhausted. Of as nice as a vacation is, even at a certain point, you kind of want to go home. You want to be in your own place with your pets, your stuff, whatever it may be. And the idea that you can go anywhere you want, but you're never going to get that moment of reprieve, that moment of rest, that moment of peace, sounds exhausting.
Yeah. To me, this bridge also shows a deep sense of loss, deep longing. There was clearly a strong connection. If you're calling something home, you would still miss me in your bones, right? That idea of missing something in your bones, something you know so deeply, so viscerally that it's part of you, it's made you who you are. But also betrayal. You can aim for my heart, go for blood. So that's where I agree. There's like this unsettling, it's very unsettling, this entire bridge, for that reason.
Yeah, and the idea that there's something particularly tragic about this bridge, because it's making it clear the connection's not gone, but the brokenness is there. The idea of you can aim for my heart, go for blood, so you can still hurt me, but you're still gonna miss me. That there's not. Was this on the same album as Closure? I can't remember.
No, Closure was
album
Evermore.
Closure was on Evermore.
Yeah.
But it has this idea of, I think this song's interesting paired with closure in my mind. Of there's no closure here. Of you're trying to poetically murder me, hurt me, yet you're going to still miss me. And I still talk to you when I'm screaming at the sky. If you've truly moved on, you're not going to go out screaming at the sky at this person. You're not going to still talk to this person. They're not going to still miss you. So this connection, this bond is still there, despite
it all.
Violent imagery of pain, which is, I think, part of what makes it so tragic.
I love the double meaning of the word miss, the play on words. She does this all the time, where she'll make a metaphor like, you can aim for my heart. It's like you're aiming and firing something and you would miss, like you miss an arrow.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Good job.
But at the same time, you would miss me in your bones. She's combining another phrase, that phrase of missing you in your bones, in this moment to kind of subvert the meaning, which is really cool, because you can feel that. You're like, oh, to miss someone in their bones.
And it's like your DNA. It's in your bones. It's a part of you.
But the interesting thing about bones versus, she didn't say in my blood, she didn't say in my heart, she said in my bones, which are things that can be broken. It's something that creates your skeleton and puts you together. That is why we stand up tall, but it is also the thing that can break. And it can break physically. A heart can break literally, but you can physically break bone.
That's true. There's a phrase about feeling something in your bones, and it's also like a premonition. It's like it's associated with a
Yes.
very, very deep feeling, something in your bones.
It's something that can be broken, but it's also something that is the foundation of your body. It's the structural part.
When you say bare bones, it's as bare as you can get.
So we've got this very emotional, lots of longing, loss, deep. And then at the end of this bridge, you get, and when you can't sleep at night, you hear my stolen lullabies. Now, that could be, yes, you hear my voice, you hear, you can't not hear who I am. But this is also a personal, this is what tells us this is a personal Taylor song. And this is my favorite type of personal Taylor song, which is a career song, because this is your hint at a little bit of what the song is about. You still hear my stolen lullabies about her masters being stolen. Yeah, that is the thing that makes this, again, this song doesn't necessarily have to resonate as a Taylor Swift has her masters stolen song. It doesn't have to resonate as a career song. It could resonate, as we just went through the bridge, and I'm sure the whole song does the same thing, as this deep personal relationship, this loss. But we do get this little picture, this little snippet in the bridge of what it meant for her in particular with that line. And it's not even a line, it's literally a parenthetical. You hear my stolen lullabies is in parentheses. So I think, yes, that might be what a hint to what the song is for her. That doesn't mean that is the only thing this song could possibly ever be about or resonate about.
It's an interesting term, lullabies, too, because the context in which you use that word, it's songs that will lull somebody to sleep. A child can be very comforting.
Yeah.
The fact that they're stolen, and if she's referring to her own music as lullabies.
It's an interesting juxtaposition. I do have one thing I want to read about this before we move on, because yes, we have that one line that's about her career, but yes, we have that one line that shows that this is why she wrote it. But the beauty of her lyrics is that they resonate with so many. And I want to just read briefly an excerpt from the Daily that they came out with last year, December 2023, the year of Taylor Swift. Taffy Brodesser-Akner talked about how this song resonated for her in her career. So she said, I'm 48 years old. I've been working for a long time. Over the course of many years, I'm a competitive person. I found myself betrayed by people who loved me, appreciated me, and acted in their business's best interest. The job I had before this one was at a magazine. I learned that I wasn't just being underpaid, I was being paid roughly a third of what my male colleagues were being paid. I was beloved by them, but I also loved them. And when I hear this song, I cry. I cry here, reiterating it, because I can't believe it happened to me. It was such a betrayal, and it was a betrayal of what I thought of myself. And when I hear this song, I'm right back there. I'm right back, finding out in the most stunning way that I am being so comparatively underpaid. And that's why it hurts to listen to this song, and that's why it helps to listen to this song, because also there's this part of me that now that Taylor Swift feels this way, it allows me off the hook a little bit. If it could happen to Taylor Swift, why wouldn't it happen to me? So thank you, Taffy, for sharing that. We often talk about how these songs resonate with us, and I love just hearing her encapsulate why, it doesn't matter who Taylor Swift wrote this song about or what she wrote it about. It's what it means for us.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought in this quote, because I think the line, I can go anywhere, just not home. I moved to San Francisco for work, and I've made my life here. And I often think about that in that regard, but I don't think I ever thought about the entire song that way. But it is really interesting that other people identify with that and the lullabies comment. We will definitely need to revisit this.
We're going to need to do the whole one.
Do a proper deep dive of the whole thing.
Every song we're going to talk about in this, we'll have to revisit at some point.
Yeah, we basically picked the lines where we're like, oh shit, we didn't talk about that. We at least need to do that here.
But someone asked for this one to be analyzed, and also somebody mentioned this as one of the most underrated lyrics. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Glad we could go over it even so briefly.
Okay, well, on the idea that a song can mean a lot of things to different people or not, or perhaps deviate from the original intent, which for the record is our whole thing on this entire podcast anyways, someone brought up the song Robin and wanting to know, a robin's a bird, what's it about? Way to go, Tiger, who is you? And we did talk about this. I don't recall the episode number. I'm so sorry. It'll be in the show notes. We did talk about Robin during our summer school TTPD episodes. And first, of all, Robin is a song from Torture Poets Department. It's on the anthology and is written by Taylor Swift and Aaron Dessner. But I really liked that someone brought this up, because since we had that conversation, I've reflected on this song a little bit, because we originally were just like, yeah, it's about childhood, which I still think is true. And it was like, oh, well, it was, Aaron Dessner has a child named Robin, so that's probably where it came from. That's why it's Robin. And again, a lot of that is probably true. However, it's stuck with me because I felt like there was more to it. And so I really liked that came up, because I wanted to revisit it a little bit and think about, sometimes we talk about how in order to understand the effect of something, imagining if it was different. And I am married to a man named Chris, so I'm going to use this as an example. If Aaron Dessner's child was named Chris, how different of a song would this be? Like the name Robin, sure, could be based in reality, but it still does something to the song. I was thinking of Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh, and this idea of that childhood, that the word Robin is in there, and it's so whimsical. It's Winnie the Pooh. It's something we love. It's innocent, it's sweet, it's naive. And robins, the actual birds, do represent renewal and new beginnings. I read somewhere that they're often the first birds you see in spring. They're the first birds to kind of come back out in spring. So it's a sign of that cycle of rebirth, renewal, innocence, that all that kind of stuff. And I just thought that was really cool that we really didn't talk about that originally, but the fact that the name is Robin has more power to it outside of the fact that it was based in reality. And I just wanted to bring that up, because I think that whole song is about childhood and innocence and youth, and the name and the word Robin really adds a lot to that.
Yeah, I think we did it in episode 42, which was our TTPD and eco-criticism episode, where we briefly started talking about it. But you're so right. Christopher Robin, there are kind of other references to things like "Way to Go Tiger" is a big line in this song, and I do wonder if there is a relation there. I was also thinking, I wonder if we talked about it in Animal Theory. I think I might have done in the Substack of what it comes up. I also think it's like such a native bird to the Americas. I don't know. Robin is really...
It might be the Indiana state bird. Nope, that's the cardinal. I'm an idiot.
Oh.
Never mind. Moving on. That was a 3-second interlude.
But Indiana does produce the most corn, right?
The 5th most corn. This actually came up in trivia the other night. And my whole team looked at me and they're like, you got into that fight with Monzi. What are the top 5 corn producers? I was like, I don't remember those details. I just remember Indiana wasn't number 1. That was all that mattered for my argument.
Probably Iowa. I learned they're really proud of their corn.
Anyways, Robin.
There's Robin. I hope we did Robin justice. We probably didn't. You can let us know on social media.
Okay, well, I, on social media, was also asking people to give me their most underrated lyrics in addition to just their favorite ones to analyze. So one of the ones that was requested was the pre-chorus of "Right Where You Left Me." Can I just talk about the fact that we love this song? So much so that we actually did deep dive it. And so if you want to listen to our entire full analysis, it was episode 24. But the pre-chorus, and I'll just read it out. "Help, I'm still at the restaurant, still sitting in a corner I haunt, cross-legged in the dim light. They say, what a sad sight. I swear you could hear a pin drop right where I felt the moment stop. Glass shattered on the white cloth. Everybody moved on. I stayed
Is
there."
that the pre-chorus or a verse? That's like a long pre-chorus. Full disclosure, music theory and whole, like, as we've said, not my area of expertise.
According to Lyric Genius.
Great. We love Lyric Genius.
This is the pre-chorus. Great. Yeah. And then it does lead into the chorus with "The dust collected on my pinned up hair. They expected me to find somewhere some perspective, but I sat and stared right where." We talk about this in so much more detail, so I don't think it's worth going through line by line. But one thing that I will say is, in going through this song, the thing that really struck me was how much the context of the entire song really changes the meaning. And sometimes when we do close reading of lyrics, I think that's the thing that's really cool, is that examining a lyric by itself definitely yields meanings. And we have found that there are so many little nuances that she plays with. So the way that she's playing with rhyme here, like pin drop, stop, cloth, that ah sound, the short o sound, adds to some of the texture in the music. But in context with this entire song, I mean, we really went on a journey about somebody who has been deeply forgotten and left to sit there over time, and how that impacts you, how the world can move on around you, and that person is kind of still stuck in time.
I think one thing we did not bring up in the original that I have reflected on since that episode is the cross-legged and the dim light, and the way that there's like some darkness playing in here. And just symbolically, there's a lot of stuff with darkness and not, but it's something I've just been noticing a little bit more, because she also has, but I'm right where you left me, matches burn after the other, so almost this like manual effort to maybe keep light going, and yet in the pre-chorus she's in the dim light. There's not a permanent light, she's alone. Almost in some ways I could argue that there's an implication that the other person was, the light of her life perhaps, and without that other person she's dim, she's burning matches, which is not an efficient way to create light, but she's all alone and she has no other resources for it. I think that there's something there with the light and the darkness that's adding to the imagery of the loneliness, the isolation, feeling lost, that kind of stuff.
We have a play on word here again with hairpin and then pinned up hair, but the hairpin they're used the first time is about hairpin drop, like the silence and the sound, and then the second time it's visual. So yeah, really like playing with the senses.
The image that I get in my head is of the Haunted Mansion in Disney World, because you see all the ghosts.
Yeah.
I think we also brought up Legally Blonde in the original conversation, so it's fine.
It's very on brand for what we do on this podcast, which is make these crazy connections, some of which are academic and some of which are Disney's Haunted Mansion ride.
Thank you, Professor Trelawney.
That was very
that
Professor
was
Trelawney.
very Professor Trelawney.
Well, it wouldn't be a AP Taylor Swift episode without a Harry Potter reference. So there we go. I have the next one that we also have done already from All Too Well 10-minute version. This is off of Red Taylor's version, 2021, written by Taylor Swift and Liz Rose, track 30.
To be fair to our listeners who responded on social media, this episode was not out at the time that we posted this on social media.
But I don't even know, I don't remember if we went through this specific line anyway. So, and I like it.
Not really.
I do know that I did cover this line at some point on TikTok, but TikTok doesn't make it easy to go back and like look at old TikToks. But the line is, when your Brooklyn broke my skin and bones. And as the New Yorker of the group, I feel very qualified to try and interpret this line. But you can go back and listen to this from September 4th. So, okay, for those not in New York, Brooklyn is considered an outer borough, meaning it is not Manhattan. When a lot of people think of New York City, they think of Manhattan. Brooklyn is very different than Manhattan. It can be a bit more residential, much more space, more spread out, less industry. I would also say and I hate this word, but we say the vibes are different. People who live in Manhattan, I don't go out to Brooklyn very often.
I love it when you have to cave in.
When I have to just say vibes, the vibes are off. No, they're not off. It's just different. It is a different, Manhattan is where, lots of office buildings, lots of high rises, much more densely packed. Brooklyn, more space, a little bit more sprawling, more residential. It's a different energy. And so people who live in Manhattan are looking for a different energy and different way of life than living in Brooklyn. And it's kind of like just living suburbs versus city. Not that Brooklyn is a suburb, although there are parts of it that are more suburban. As the Manhattanite, you get trees, you get grass, you can have a backyard with a driveway. Like, you don't get that in Manhattan, but you do. Anyway, all that is to say, your Brooklyn is really quantifying or qualifying that this is your space versus my space. So regardless of what you know or don't know about Brooklyn, she is very much differentiating this other person's life and lifestyle, maybe social circle, from her own. It's your Brooklyn. It's not my Brooklyn. And what did that Brooklyn do? It broke my skin and bones. I somehow picked 2 songs with lines about bones. Cool. Don't know what that says about me.
Spoiling our future show and tell bone songs.
My mom's a radiologist. She would love that. What does it mean when you broke my skin and bones? Something that was painful. It hurt. There was stress. There was agony. So when your Brooklyn broke my skin and bones, like, that is a relationship where she didn't fit in and it was really fucking hard.
Yeah, and we talked about home, and Brooklyn was not making
Not
it clear
her home.
your Brooklyn,
Your Brooklyn,
not mine.
not mine.
Yeah, are people from Brooklyn also a little rough around the
No.
edges compared to Manhattan?
No,
Yeah,
that's like
that's what I
a
thought.
nice little Hollywood stereotype.
No, that's what I thought, but I was like, I also wondered the way that it's phrased, knowing nothing, like I would think uneducated about New Yorker, I would think it had something to do with maybe the personality, like maybe your rough personality broke
think
my
what
bones.
it could be is, again, there's a lot of I'm gonna get so much not hate, but like commentary from other New Yorkers about like Manhattan versus Brooklyn. But like, come at me, let's have this conversation, just not in the reviews, please. Come on social media. It's a very different, I think your Brooklyn, maybe this person grew up in Brooklyn, maybe they have like, and there tends to be this you're a New Yorker and I'm not kind of attitude. And so that's the other thing that could be going on here. Maybe your Brooklyn is, what did this person have superiority about being from Brooklyn or really being from New York, but you're really not from New York. You just moved here. So there could be that sense, but whatever it is, there's an othering, there's a separation, there's a difference between these two people, and she's qualifying that with it's your Brooklyn, and where you live, your space, who you are, broke me, hurt me, I didn't fit in. And I think the alliteration of your Brooklyn broke my bones also just gives it that much more umph and that much more power, which makes this line really stand out, and possibly is why out of the full 10-minute song, this is the line that someone was like, I want to know what this means. So that's my guess. What does that say about the whole song? I don't know. Go back and listen to the other episode. I don't remember if we talked about it there.
Well, and something we didn't talk about much in that episode, if I recall correctly, is the short film that went along with the 10-minute version.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really clear in the film is when they're with other people, the Sadie Sink's character clearly feels out of place, is clearly not welcomed in, not comfortable. So that also goes with that your Brooklyn broke of like, I'm in your life, I stepped in. And in the short film, we never see the male character. Oh my gosh, who's that actor? Dylan
O'Brien.
Yes, we never see Dylan O'Brien go into her world, but it's when they're off on their own, the two of them in other places. And so we definitely talk about this in the episode of locations and what locations mean, but it's very clear she's out of place whenever it's his space. Yeah,
not my space. Sorry. That's how you know it's getting late when we record.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about Coney Island featuring The National, which is from Evermore, and it was written by Aaron Dessner, Bryce Dessner, Taylor Swift, and William Bowery, who was not William Bowery, but we don't have to get into that.
R.I.P.
Coney Island deserves a deep dive. I'm going to acknowledge that right now, because even just going through this like little bit, I was like, there's more to this, but we're here and this is happening. So the request was the line, do you miss the rogue who coaxed you into paradise and left you there? First of all, fascinating line. I actually really wanted to like sit up with this one for a little bit longer, so I spent some time on it. And there's a couple of things going here. First and foremost, I talked about with Tortured Poets Department how Taylor was playing with tropes a lot, and I think that's happening in the song too. The word rogue in the context around it makes me think of the trope of the reformed rake, which is a trope where it's often their period pieces. It definitely comes up in Bridgerton. Isn't like Anthony a reformed rake in Bridgerton or something?
They're all reformed rakes in Bridgerton.
So it's usually a man who's made, immoral decisions for the Victorian era, but then they fall in love and they become reformed through their love. But in this case, so did you miss the rogue who coaxed you into paradise feels very reformed rake of it's this person, but they've been reformed. They brought you into this beautiful place, but then left you there. So it's almost like this reformed rake gone bad, where it's like, oh, like everything was happening, but then something ended. And the reason I really wanted to talk about this line is because we also have, before Evermore, we have Leave Me Stranded, it's so romantic. And then we have Do You Miss the Rogue who coaxed you into paradise and left you there. And then we have Down Bad, How Dare You Leave Me Stranded. So there's this thread throughout some of her albums about this idea of being stranded, and it's kind of romantic in this almost tropey way of, oh, you left me stranded, it's romantic, and I see that. And then here we get the do you miss the rogue who brought you into paradise and left you there? So it still feels a little romantic, paradise is a good thing. And then eventually in TTPD we get how dare you leave me stranded. So there's this like almost maturity of it. And I don't know, what do you guys think about that? I have other thoughts, but I'm still wrestling with this line, which is why I really wanted to talk about it, because I don't have an answer, but that was the first thing I thought of when I was digging into this.
For me, it reminds me a little bit of the lakes, but it's almost the opposite of the lakes, where in the lakes, take me to the lakes where all the poets went to die. She wants that space that is kind of paradise in a way, and she wants to be left alone. But this is almost the opposite. It's like it's a bad thing to be taken into paradise and left there alone.
But in the lakes, it was her and her muse.
Yes, her beloved. Yeah.
Maybe you all can help me think of the song that I'm thinking of, but one of the songs that we've discussed, we talked about two paths, and there's one path where you follow the sequence. You go to school, you get the job, you do everything in the order way, and then you have like, I think maybe you ran with the wolves. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Did we do Daylight? Did we cover Daylight?
And Animal Theory, because that's when Monte talked about the wolves.
It was this idea of two different paths, right? Like you can take the safer, predictable path, and then you have these rogues who like, they do their own thing. They break all the rules don't apply. And I guess what I'm thinking of is that rogues convince you into paradise. Like you abandon the safe path and go to this place that offers you amazing riches, but then you're ditched there. So when things don't work out, you're abandoned. Like there's no way to get out of there, and maybe you crave the safer path or you crave the other path. Like that's kind of where my head goes.
Yeah, the word coax is particularly meaningful, I think, because it's definitely persuasion. It's not quite seduction, but it's almost, to me, closer to seduction than some other words we could have used here. There's definitely an intimacy, it feels like, to this line of this person coaxed you into paradise.
Or another way is like luring out of a safe spot.
Yes.
Like you can, like trying to coax somebody out of maybe their cocoon or their shell or somewhere that was more secure to somewhere like, to me, it's like you get convinced to see the wide open and then you kind of get lost in it. You get ditched.
But also the choice of the word rogue. All the other synonyms for rogue are also equally as pleasant. Knave, rapscallion, rascal, scallywag,
hooligan.
And that's why I thought rake, where it's like,
yeah.
And it's, we have an episode coming out soon, listeners, where we talk about Cowboy Like Me. So I'm going to reference something with that. Spoiler alert. But it has that kind of cowboy-y vibe to it, where it's like, okay, so it means, to me, rogue means they exist outside of that structure, like we've been saying. Whether or not they're good probably depends on who you're asking. Like, I'm thinking almost, but Daddy, I love him, of if you go to, the church people, the rogue is bad. But if you go to other people, the rogue is living life the right way. And that's why I think the word paradise is also really interesting here, because coaxed you into paradise. Okay. So many versions of this that could happen. I think the larger context of the song would maybe help answer it at some point. Yeah. However, the question is there of what is paradise? Was paradise, because the song is definitely about a relationship, romantic, not romantic, probably romantic, but whatever. There's definitely two people. And so was paradise being with that person? Was paradise, there's a version of it where paradise can almost even be like sex in some ways, where, you were on that straight and narrow and then you were coaxed into paradise. And then this person left you and you've already made that decision and you have already gone into that world, but now you're there alone. And like the whole point of paradise was being there with that person. That there's just like something here about, I think the question I walk away with that I think the song wants you to ask is paradise when you're alone, or was paradise only paradise because you were there with the rogue?
Interesting.
Yeah. I think of also illicit affairs. You showed me colors. Yes. I can't see with anyone else.
Can you imagine what brain space we'd be able to put towards like something amazing if we didn't have all of Taylor Swift's lyrics up in here?
I mean, my husband's brain space goes to football, and
this is better.
What I use mine for.
This is better.
Mine goes to both.
You know how to ball. I know Aristotle. Is all I'm gonna say.
I've
about
unpacked that one on TikTok. It's our highest performing TikTok. It's pinned at the top if you'd like to know what I think that means.
Okay, so this next one I can't believe we haven't discussed this on the show, but I mentioned it earlier. We haven't talked about Delicate from Reputation. Of course, we are still waiting for Rep TV. So
I love how confident we are. We are, first of all, pause. We say like maybe it's going to be out by the time this episode comes out, and this time we are just so confident that that is just not the case.
no, it's not. Yeah, I don't think so.
Which means
but
it's
who
guaranteed
knows?
to be out by the time this episode comes
I was
out.
just gonna say. Yup. The line was, "We can't make any promises now, can we, babe?" Which is an oddly relevant lyric to the discussion of Rep TV, because she can't make any promises now, can we? Now can she, babe? Yeah. To me, this is such a condescending Taylor, or not condescending is not the right word. Didactic is the SAT vocab of
Well
the
done.
day.
Good
But
work.
when Taylor Swift uses the word now, can we, or the words now and can we together like that, to me it's like teacher Taylor with her hair up wagging a finger at you. And sometimes we did talk about some other songs on Reputation also, even in Midnight's, like Mastermind, where she's really just telling us a story but from a position of power. And I do kind of get that in the tone of this line. We can't make any promises now, can we, babe? But you can make me a drink. It's so, don't worry your pretty little head about these fancy, more sophisticated ideas. Make me a drink. Let's start here. Let's start at this one thing. I think in terms of a relationship, to me, it's also comparing the lofty to the here and now. You can make me a drink right now. This is something that we can do right in this moment where we have met, and we can't get caught up or carried away with everything the future.
I was just going to say, it's the future versus the present. Like, again, not looking at any other of the other lyrics in this song. When you're just looking at this line, this is like something I would say on a first date, and someone's like getting ahead of themselves. Like, we can't make any promises now, can we, babe? But you can make me a drink. Like, stop trying to look into the future. We can't get there yet. But what we can do right here is you can make me a drink, and we can start. That's where we can start. It's not necessarily shutting down the future.
Yeah.
But it is saying like, well, let's just start at the beginning, which is make me a drink and let's go from there.
And I think I started with the didacticness because from a position of power, from a position of confidence. Maybe.
Well, and I'm definitely biased by the conversation we just had about Rogue. I'm acknowledging that. But I also think there's a version of it here where we can't make any promises now, can we, babe? Could also be a moment of self-awareness about the two people in this conversation. Thinking of that reformed rake kind of trope where sometimes if the reformed rake is like, oh, I'm going to love you forever, that this could be a Taylor moment saying, I know who I am and I know who you are. So we're not going to make promises, but you can make me a drink and we're going to have tonight and then we'll see where tomorrow goes. This sort of self-awareness of this isn't who we are right now. And, maybe the other person's getting caught up in the moment and she's like, no, we're not doing that.
I'm also caught on using the word babe, because I can contradict myself for a second. If this was a first date and you're like, well, we can't make promises, let's just focus on the now and make me a drink. Are you calling this person babe? That is a term of endearment and affection usually, but that would assume some sort of longevity in a relationship, unless babe is being used condescendingly.
I was just going to say the didactic tone kind of changes that, because if she had started with like, babe, we can't make any promises, that's really different from we can't make any promises now, can we, babe?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the that's showbiz, baby.
Yeah. Ooh, which is really interesting because that's such a like male to female line of like that's showbiz, baby. Like it's this like ick, like outdated 60s executive to.
It's excusing a behavior.
And here, babe, I mean, I feel like can be referred to women, but babe is also a non-gender term that women can use to refer to their significant others too. And I just think the power dynamic switch is what's really interesting here.
There's a dismissiveness in the line that I don't think I would have recognized had we not just dove right into it because I don't see it when I'm singing the song.
And also, it was funny to me that it's on the same album that has the song that has a line, "Is this the end of all the endings?" Like, we really get the extremes of Taylor in a relationship here. Of like, we can't make promises. A few songs later, is this the end of all the endings? Is this forever? Is this happening?
She's not the drama.
Am I the drama?
Okay, so there were a lot more, and we're already like, so this has already been longer than we planned, and we knew it would be, and it's fine.
A year in, we know that.
That is so true.
Yeah.
So follow us on social media. We will keep talking about this. Follow us on Substack. I'm sure we'll analyze some of the other requested lyrics in the Substack for this week. And most of all, thank you for listening and for doing this with us. We're having so much fun. We have already started our fall semester, but we're going to keep going. We have some really, really fun things lined up for this fall that we're knee deep in and we're really excited about. But
we have guests. I'm so excited about our guests this fall.
So excited.
We have other things we've done based on fan requests. Please keep requesting things. We love knowing what you want to hear about. We are always stuck in our own experiences, for better or for worse, and sometimes that's super fun, but it's also really fun to hear what other people want. And sometimes when we do those things, we uncover stuff we wouldn't have before. So truly, please, these things are really, really fun for us. We love it. We love the engagement.
We're also chronically online millennials, so really talk about engagement.
True.
Like, comment, respond, choose your social media channel of choice. We love to engage, and we're happy to do these lyrical deep dives on the socials.
Yes. I truly logged out of my personal Instagram account because I was spending so much time on Instagram, and I was like, well, if I have to choose, it's the pod account. So I guess I'm done with my personal Instagram.
I do want to maybe close with a thank you to all of the listeners who have stuck with us so far, because 50 plus episodes is like ridiculous. Is ridiculous.
I'm not editing that out. I'm keeping that in.
Ridiculous. Sorry, is ridiculous.
There was a Bogart in her corner. She had to deal with it super fast. It's not a big deal. We're good now.
Ridiculous. Okay. I've just said this word like 8 different times, but it's so crazy to me that so many of you tune in week after week after week. This is such a nerdy podcast, we know, and it's just amazing that so many of you enjoy being nerds with us, whether it's a show and tell or the deep dives.
Our first episodes, the first 2 episodes, so I don't know if we've shared this, was us just seeing if this worked. Like, there was a very large chance that wasn't actually going to be, that this wasn't going to be a podcast. We literally like, well, let's just try it. Let's record something. Let's see if we get along. Let's see if the idea works. And 60 episodes later, here we are.
Look, season 1, Enchanted. Season 2,
Florida. I knew exactly where you were going.
Season 3, Enchanted Florida. I don't know.
Karma.
If someone out there is a DJ of any kind and you can mash up Enchanted in Florida, that would be the best thing that's ever happened in my life.
New opener.
We appreciate you, especially if you listened all the way here to this part of it. Catch us next week as we overanalyze and deep dive another Taylor Swift song right here on AP Taylor Swift.
That is all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us at AP Taylor Swift on all social channels to stay up to date. And join us next time as we overanalyze the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.